pressure off the edge, and it's intercepted. D'Angelo Pons roll out the big red carpet. Touchdown, Indiana.
It's time for the big red carpet. Here's your host, Rhett Lewis.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Another edition of the Big Red Carpet, and what a big week it is. Ready to rock and roll here with you, as always. Hat tip to the man who named this show inadvertently, but he did. Thanks to Guy Haberman for his great call, part of our crew on Big Ten Network and that Washington game. It was such a great moment if you're just joining us for the first time. That is why we are called the Big Red Carpet, because we certainly expect now more moments like that one. Certainly had plenty of them against Indiana State in a 73-0 total domination of, let's be frank, a far inferior opponent. Just the way it was, way it is. And so much love and respect for the Mallory family. Kurt Mallory was an assistant coach on Jerry DiNardo's staff for 3 years when I was playing at Indiana. So love Kurt. I know he's good for that program, and they'll have better days than they had in Bloomington this past Friday night. But excited to go through that game a little bit with you. We're not going to spend too much time on that because there's not a whole lot that we're going to gain from that as it then relates to what we're going to see from the Illinois Fighting Illini. Just the second time in the history of this series that we're going to be that we're going to have both Indiana and Illinois ranked coming into this matchup. Illinois sitting there in the top 10, Indiana moving up a few spots to number 19. So fantastic matchup for that one. We're going to preview that one in a big way. Biggest preview we have done in this series to date. Also, some great news ahead. Well, one, fired up for me. I get to be at the game this weekend, not calling the game, but actually, and perhaps maybe tailgating a little bit and being a part of the action inside the Rock Memorial Stadium, and excited for that opportunity. Excited to see you guys and maybe get to interact with a few of you who have enjoyed what we're doing so far here on the Big Red Carpet. But also, as part of this weekend, some really fun news is that we're kind of having a little Big Red Carpet / CrimsonCast collaboration on Kirkwood at Trax via home field for a little live Indiana football hang, a little conversation. It's going to happen for you at 4 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock on Friday, and fired up to be there with Galen and to kind of hang out, talk IU football, talk about the biggest pieces of this matchup, what it's going to take to beat a very well-coached and physical team in Illinois, and just have some fun there. I hope you guys stop by, hang out with home field, hang out with us, talk some IU football. We'll take some questions, some comments, whatever you guys got, and we'll do that again on this show as well with Nathan and Peter, who are hanging out, running the show for us behind the proverbial glass. So, just a couple announcements there before we really get into the meat of this show, but excited for the week ahead. So before we get there, let's look back briefly at Indiana State. And we do so, what's the best way to say it? A little bittersweet here with this recap, because we ran into some technology issues, I guess you could say, with the way that we had been showing you some video from the Kennesaw State game. Apparently, some powers that be somewhere decided that was copyright infringement. So we can't show you the video anymore, which is a bit of a bummer, as I know you guys appreciated that. We appreciate you commenting on the YouTube page. But we'll still search for some other venues to interact with you with the video. But right now, got that part of it on pause, but still going to get the breakdown, still going to get the gist of the information, and just going to give it to you in a different form this way. So apologize for that moving forward, but we're still working on it. We'll figure out some other ways here. But let's dig into Indiana State. And I think the biggest thing for me to jump in on this game was really the throws from Fernando Mendoza. Obviously, he's 19 of 20 in the game. He's really good, right? I mean, threw 4 to Omar. I mean, like, it was an absolutely insane day for the Indiana quarterback. 5 touchdowns through the air. His brother Alberto throws 2 of them. And it was we call it an 8 touchdown day for the Mendoza family, because Fernando ran one in too. Just an incredible performance there by Fernando to start this thing off. So I just thought the biggest thing that stuck out to me is, one, he was, again, confident, calm, comfortable with what was being called. And you saw that, again, big improvement from week 1 to week 2. And I think, again, from week 2 to week 3. Now, it really, really matters here moving into week 4 to continue that progression. But I think what you saw is the more comfortable and confident he's become in this offense and in this system, the more you're seeing the fact that he's got a big time arm. I don't mean huge arm in terms of like, man, he's got to throw it a mile. He could throw it now. There's no problem there. But I'm talking about big time throws, tight window throws, anticipatory throws, in between a couple of defenders. Those are the things that separate good and great quarterbacks in this league. And I think Fernando is trending towards the great piece of this thing here. So a couple of my favorite ones. Early on, again, he only played the first half, right? But still had some big ones. So the throw to EJ Williams on a dig. This was early in the game, one of his first couple of throws. This is a it's like a 16-yard in cut from EJ Williams coming from the right side, right? And then he breaks in, and you can see Fernando, and there's a defender. There's a defender that EJ has to clear in order to break open. And you can already see before EJ does it, Fernando knows that's where he's going. He's already in his motion. He fires a ball. I'm telling you, man, that two throw where it's kind of on, it has a slight arc and it gets there. That ball is on a mission out of Fernando Mendoza's right hand, and it is fun to watch, man. And that went right into EJ Williams. He took a hit, picked it up, big first down there. He then had a little bit later, a couple of plays later, was a deep hook to Charlie Becker, who now look, Charlie can get down the field with some pace, right? He's a long strider who's got some really good speed. He has this kind of deep hook curl type route, and it comes like but he's curling essentially in between two defenders, and Fernando just puts that thing on the money, right on him. Another big chunk play. Again, those are explosives. When you talk about the pass game, anything over 15 yards is an explosive, and that's the way, that's the way that you can really, move up and down the field. I thought there was actually another one that I think was the first touchdown to Omar Cooper. A nice rip right over the middle. Again, just kind of laid it in perfectly to Cooper in the end zone. That was, and then there was a big, I thought, nice piece of this thing from the running back group was seeing the pass pro. Kalen Black had a big time pass pro pickup on a blitzing linebacker from Indiana State. Just absolutely stonewalled him, gave Fernando the opportunity to step up into the throw and make it. And then another kind of curl over the middle in the second quarter. Again, ripped it with anticipation before the receiver was even out of the break. The touchdown to Holden Stays was a wow throw to me over two different defenders in the end zone. And then I forget whether this was Omar's second or third, but it was the 31-yard touchdown to Cooper. There were some defenders kind of near Fernando when he's making the throw, and there's some bodies around him. So look, it's kind of a hostile environment back there, right? He stands in, and I'm telling you, when he released this thing, it felt like one of those throws. If you watch Hard Knocks, right, and the folks from NFL Films are so good at what they do, right? They can zoom in on a ball, catch that spiral of the ball, right? That rotation of the ball so tight, and then just kind of zoom out as it goes. The end zone copy, I wish I could show it to you. The end zone copy, maybe I'll throw it on social media here a little bit later follow me at Rhett NFL, RHETT NFL. And I'll put that one out there for you because it is a thing of beauty, man. It looks it's so pretty. It's like you can just see it when you watch it in slow motion, man. It's like NFL Films is tracking it, right? And it was just perfectly thrown, layered in between a couple of defenders. I just thought Fernando had just big time, winning football type of throws that he's going to need as you get into conference play and against a really good team in Illinois this week. So that was, to me, one of the biggest signs of encouragement. We're just seeing, we've known that Fernando can do it, but seeing him make some of these throws, it was a lot of fun to watch. Riley Nowakowski, our favorite player from last week, continues his gritty work, some of that dirty work in there with some of the blocks. He had another couple of big ones. The way this guy holds his own against defensive ends that are bigger than he is just really impressive. So shout out to Riley for continuing his dominance, whether it's pass pro or whether it's, in the run game blocking. Holden Stays had a big point of attack block. If you remember the week 2 episode or the week 2 episode, but our third episode last week from Kennesaw State, we showed you Riley Nowakowski on a point of attack block on the middle linebacker. Well, it almost looked like a very similar play here this week, except it Stays number 19 in that role that Riley was in, and again, executes it to perfection. It was an explosive run. Zen Michalski, got to see him at right tackle for the better part of this game. And really for the most we've seen him so far this season. The transfer from Ohio State came over and had been kind of a depth guy since Khalil Benson assumed the starting role. But Khalil didn't play for the first half of this game. He'll be good to go here this next week. But I thought Zen showed up nicely. He had a big block on Kalon Black's 30-yard run in the second quarter. Thought he was solid in pass pro. And again, getting those reps, I think, will be huge just in case, right? You got to have more than 5 offensive linemen. We saw it last year. I mentioned the depth. We got all the way down the depth at guard by the time we got into the college football playoff, and it started to show a little bit. So I think the fact that you've got a guy in Michalski, who can jump in there at one of the tackle spots, probably jump in there at one of the guard spots too, that's a lot. That says a lot. And then obviously got a ton of playing time from young guys, especially in the second half. Alberto Mendoza gets the entire second half, which is great. And so as we give you a little young guy report here, which we've kind of been doing the last couple of weeks, Kobe Martin. Yeah. From the Hoosier State, right? You saw the X post from the Indiana football account, right? The best in Indiana play for Indiana. Well, Kobe Martin showed up in a big way in this game, his most extensive work of his young career, and goes for 109 yards on 11 carries and a pair of touchdowns. I thought that was a big outing for a guy in a big spot. And I just kind of going inside the numbers on those 11 carries, 6 of them went for first downs. And of those 11 carries, he forced 5 missed tackles. By far the most of his career, by far the most of any running back for Indiana in this game. So this is a guy that has some elusiveness that can turn, a 2-yard run, maybe into a 10, 12-yard run because he's got the ability to make guys miss, and he's got some physicality to work through tackles as well. And now the unfortunate piece of this equation is Curt Cignetti, with the unfortunate announcement today that Lee Beebe is going to be out for the year after suffering a non-contact injury in this game against Indiana State. So hate that for Lee Beebe. He was playing well, really rebounded nicely since, having a fumble on his first carry back in the Old Dominion game, has played really well. It's a really good back, but he's going to be down for the rest of the year. So great to see Kobe Martin getting that extended playing time and then, taking advantage of the opportunity. So shout out to Kobe Martin. I thought that was fantastic. And then Alberto Mendoza, I thought he was pretty sharp in this one. Again, just valuable reps, just 4 incompletions between the Mendozas, accounting for 8 touchdowns as well. Pretty good day for the family. So that was great to see. All right. So that's just a quick look at Indiana State. Let's dig in on Illinois here, because this is a team that, Bret Bielema is a really good coach. He now has his fingerprints all over this program, right? I remember, I think it was it his first year in 23 or 22 when Indiana beat him in the season opener? That was a physical team. And I think you could see right away that there was a calling card to the way that they're going to play on defense, big physical defensive linemen, right, who can sting you. And then they're going to try to run the football on offense. And now the fact that they've got an experienced quarterback back for his 3rd year in the program, you started to see last year a little bit more of the pass game element with Barry Lunney, who's the offensive coordinator of that offense. And they can do it. They can do a lot of different things. They can formation you a lot of different ways with personnel, and they'll have some shifts and motions, and they'll really try to, affect your eye discipline, like where are your eyes supposed to be if you're Indiana's defense in a game like this. There'll be some things to really follow here. I think on the offensive side of the ball, Luke Altmire's been sacked 8 times so far this year. It was 3 times in the opener against Western Illinois, 3 times against Duke. He's completing just under 70% of his passes. He's got 8 touchdowns and has not thrown an interception. And that's really been the thing for him, really, since his first year at Illinois. Turnovers were a problem. Really started to limit that last year, especially the back half of the year. And then now he's kind of continuing that. He's got a clean sheet going into this game here in week 4. Doesn't run much, but I think he can pick up yards if he's got green grass in front of him. So I still got to pay attention to that part of the game. I think he's a really good quarterback who can make big throws, right? Especially when he is well protected and he sees it immediately, and that ball comes out of his hand. It's his first read, and I'm telling you, he's going to carve you up. If you give him his first read, and if you don't have bodies around him, he will carve you up. He is a good player. Now, that said, you go back and watch some of their biggest games last year when there's bodies around him in the pocket, and maybe that first read isn't there, he can put the ball in peril a little bit. And so even when scrambling or in the pocket, that ball can get a little bit loose. So we'll see when we get to I'll lay out my 5 keys to this game for Indiana here before we end the show. But one of the keys is, without question, pressuring Luke Altmire. And I think that is, a goal every week, obviously. And the more you can do it without sending extra rushers from the second level or from the secondary, you're going to be in a better place. But I think however you manufacture pass rush, and Brian Haynes, our defense coordinator in Indiana, is as good as it gets in doing it. I think the more you're going to have an opportunity to turn the ball over, the more you're going to have an opportunity to take the ball away and to deal with Altmire that way. So bodies around him, havoc in the pocket, things that are, affecting his vision, right? All that kind of stuff, just making him move off his spot a little bit. That's going to affect the accuracy. He's been pretty good on that front now. So that's just something where I feel like Indiana can make a difference in this game, is affecting the quarterback. You don't always have to get him to the ground, although sacks are great and you'll love a bunch of sacks, but affecting the quarterback, putting pressure on him, moving him around in the pocket, that's where Indiana is going to find some success. In the receiving game, they lost their 2 best dudes, right? Zachary Franklin and Pat Bryant. Pat Bryant was drafted by the Denver Broncos, is playing for that team now. Those are 2 really good receivers. So those 2 guys are now gone. And this offense and the receiving core has become the Hank Beatty show. 20 receptions all last season. He's got 19 already on 20 targets. So think about that efficiency. Luke Altmire has targeted him 20 times, and he's caught the ball 19 of those 20 times. They're on the same page. They have really good chemistry together. Beatty's been in the program there at Illinois for as long as Altmire has been there, so they know each other very well. 12 of his 19 catches have either gone for a first down or a touchdown. So 11 first downs and 1 touchdown is where you're at with that one. 15 yards a catch. So he's got close to 300 yards receiving. But the next closest guy in terms of catches is single digits. So that's their guy. And we'll see how Indiana decides to deal with that. But taking Hank Beatty away is one way to force Luke Altmire to move off that first read, right? And to spend more time in the pocket with the ball in his hand, allow more opportunities for the rush to get home. Running backs and the tight ends, not big factors in the run game, in the pass game. Not a ton of receptions. Just haven't seen it yet. Not saying it couldn't happen. Maybe this is the week. Maybe they've been holding out on some of their stuff here for the opportunity to use it this week to open Big Ten play. But as of right now, they have not needed or have not tried to get the running backs and the tight ends going in the pass game very much. Okay. Now, look, on the flip side for Indiana, by comparison's sake, obviously the 3 horsemen right now at receiver, it's E.J. Williams with 10 catches. It's Omar Cooper with 13, and it's Elijah Surratt with 15. Coop, by the way, is averaging 23 yards a catch. That's insane. 299 yards receiving on his 13 catches, 23 yards per catch. By the way, on Beatty, he's one of those dudes who, like, if you give him a free access throw, which we define as like corners playing off coverage, and, he just runs a little 5-yard hitch, bam, throw and catch for the quarterback. He can make those yards after the catch as well. Slants, hitches, those types of things. He's got about half of his 289 receiving yards are coming after the catch. So that's something to really watch out for. Okay, run game. Familiar face, familiar name. You saw him back in 2023 when IU and Illinois got involved in that crazy actually, you didn't really see him because he was hurt. Got hurt very early. Caden Fagan, who was a true freshman in that year and had a really good true freshman campaign for Illinois. Big back, 6'3", 240 pounds. He is their leading rusher. He is the guy that they are giving the majority of the carries to. He's got 50 carries on the season. Next guy, Aiden Laffery, just 15. So it's clear they want to get Fagan the ball, and he is a load now. You got to get to him before he can build up momentum. Otherwise, it is a hard tackle for guys in the secondary. He's averaging 4.4 yards per carry. By comparison, IU's backs are everybody's over 5.5 yards a carry. So it's a little bit more grinded out for Illinois' run game, whereas Indiana has seen a few more of those explosive plays, right, which is always great. But Indiana's got to be really good up front to allow, get some of that disruption and then allow the linebackers to get to Caden Fagan before he can really kind of get a full head of steam going. So that'll be key in this one as well. All right, so that's and look, on the offensive line, they're pretty good now. Just going over, I was trying to think, where did I have this? The pressures. Let's see. The way I was looking at it is, they have allowed more pressures on Luke Altmire than Indiana's offensive line has allowed on Fernando Mendoza. That's basically the way I looked at it. Now, look, you can say competition, and I would certainly agree with you. I think Duke is better than any of the three teams that Indiana has played so far, and Illinois handled Duke pretty well, especially in the second half when they pulled away. But they've given up some sacks. I don't think Fernando has actually been sacked so far. So I think the offensive line has done a really nice job for IU. They got to stay that way. But again, that's just giving you a look at what Illinois has done. They've allowed 8 sacks so far. So something to think about on that front. All right. Let's get to the defense. Illinois' defense is really good, and they returned a lot of guys, and Gabe Backus is their best player on defense. He is their best pass rusher, and he is one of the best players and pass rushers on the defensive side of the ball in this conference. Number 17, you'll see him in white. He's got 4 sacks on the year, but just 9 pressures. So what that tells me is he's really good at getting the quarterback down once he's there. That is a skill. That is an art form, right? A lot of guys get close and just can't get him down. God, I think about every time I think about a quarterback escaping a sack, I think about Hudson Card in that IU Purdue game of 2023, where he got out of, I felt like 15 sacks. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But for Backus, the percentage of the time he generates pressure, right? So that's a rep where he has rushed the passer, and then divided by a rep in which he's actually generated pressure. It's only 13% of the time. That's like 90th in the country for players that have 50 or more pass rushing attempts. It's 250th in the country for players with 25 or more pass rush attempts. So he can get you down when he's there, but these offensive lines, and look, they're paying a lot of attention to him. They've done a pretty good job of limiting the amount of times that he's threatening the quarterback, which is basically what that pressure percentage tells you. For comparison, Kamara's pressure percentage is closer to 15. Now, his win rate, okay, we're getting a little bit deep into the weeds here, but the win rate is 27% compared to Backus's 16%. So that means you've beaten your defender, right? You've won, and then you've either generated a pressure or the play has gone away, or some other variable has hindered your ability to generate a pressure out of your control. So you add those two things together, and Kamara is generating some production in getting into the backfield, causing havoc, beating his guys, making the quarterback think. And Backus is a little bit less than on that front. Not to say he's not a force. He is, and he will be. But that's just one thing to kind of give you some context. Mario Landino, by the way, over 17% of the time is pressuring on pass rush reps, which is pretty good for a young player. Backus is, has to be dealt with, right? Bottom line, you have to have a plan for that. Now, sometimes with players that are really aggressive and guys that are big time pass rushers, you will want to attack them that way. You want to attack them in the run game, right? You want to send extra people towards him. You might want to run your RPO game with him as the read as much as possible, just to kind of take that aggressiveness out of him a little bit. And I think that's probably one of the many ways they'll try to mix things up to deal with Gabe Backus from Indiana's perspective. So he's their best player, right? I think, one of the things, just to kind of give you an overview, Coach Sig mentioned it in his news conference today, they're going to throw a lot of different looks at Fernando Mendoza. They might have a 3-man front. They might have 4. They might have 5. They might have 1, 2, 3 different guys on the second level. They change it up quite a bit. Sometimes I was watching against Duke. they'll just sit there with 5 guys in the box. Now, the safety's a little bit closer than he might ordinarily be in that scenario. Duke ripped off a big run against that, and you have to be able to have those run checks and that ability to get into a favorable play if you see an advantage like that. 5-man boxes advantage Indiana in the run game all day long. Now, they don't do it that often, but when it's there, got to have an opportunity to win in a run situation. Obviously, you'd like it to not be 3rd and 13 when that happens, but just something to think about from that front. They are, in terms of coverage, they are mostly a man coverage team, and they play it with cover 1 most of the time. So what that basically means is they got 1 high safety and everybody else is locked up man to man. That has, of course, caused Indiana problems in the past. It was an issue against Notre Dame last year. It was a very heavy man coverage team, and there just wasn't enough separation. There wasn't enough wins in terms of one-on-one matchups from IU's receivers. I think they're a lot better on that front this year, and they will have to be in this game, because one of the things that Illinois can do is they can find ways to generate pressure, and then they're sticky in coverage. And so when you have those 2 things matched up together, Fernando's holding on to the ball, and there's more opportunities for him to find the dirt. And that is obviously not ideal. So this, again, man cover team, they've been really good there. I think that also kind of takes away your ability to access the middle of the field. A lot of times you'll see, when defenses are running, single high safeties, also called middle of the field closed. It's harder to access the deep middle part of the field there, because you got that safety right there in the middle, whereas opposed to, a cover 2 or cover 4 look, you've got the split safeties right in the middle of the field. That area in between the 2 safeties is sometimes a little vulnerable. So we'll see how that affects the way that Indiana wants to move the ball down the field in the pass game. They've only given up 2 touchdowns all year long. None of them have come when they're playing their bread and butter cover 1. So that's been really good for them, and imagine we're going to see a lot of it here this coming week. So I think Omar Cooper's progression on that front, his ability to win and win big downfield, EJ Williams' speed and acceleration will be important. Charlie Becker stretching the field, I think, will be important as well. And then Surratt with his craftiness, with his route technique, with his physicality, winning inside on some of those RPO slants. I think all that stuff will be really important for IU as they try to defeat this kind of heavy man coverage team. The only touchdowns they've given up all year were against Duke through the air. One was on a 0 coverage play, and a 0 coverage play is when you have no safeties, right? You're bringing a ton of pressure. Everybody's locked up man to man. They gave up a touchdown there. I think that was in the red zone, and then another one in the low red zone, like inside the 5-yard line, which was kind of like a creative coverage, and they gave up a touchdown that way. Xavier Scott is a good player for them, number 14, nickelback, also wide corner. So he'll line up out wide. Sometimes in passing situations, he'll come down inside and play that slot corner role. He played well against Duke. So did Tanner Heckel, who's the other slot corner, number 16. He played well against Duke. Got more opportunities this last week against Western Michigan. To me, the guy to kind of look at and to watch, the Where's Waldo, right, that maybe Indiana will be looking for is number 5, Tori Cox. He is by far given up the most production as the closest man in coverage, with 9 catches for 128 yards, and offenses have targeted him 14 different times. So that's a matchup I'll be looking at there when we're watching Inside the Rock on Saturday night. Is can IU win against a player like that, number 5, Tori Cox? I think that manipulating their linebackers into coverage situations will also be advantageous. Now, it usually is, but don't think that is this group's strength for Illinois. I think they're really good against the run. I think there's opportunities there in the pass game. Roman Hemby, Kalon Black, Holden Stays, I think, has an opportunity to have a big game in the pass game here. And then obviously we'll see what Riley Nowakowski is a part of as well when he's not blocking. I think number 7 is a good cover safety for him, maybe a little bit stiff, but he's got a lot of length, and that is advantageous. And, when you look at, again, pressure, this team has given up some pressures offensively. The last stat that I was looking for earlier, finally found it. IU top 5 in the conference in terms of pass pro, in terms of fewest pressures allowed, whereas it's been a little bit higher on Illinois' side. So something to think about. So again, recapping, 5 keys to the game: get pressure on Luke Altmire. beat man coverage on offense, and you have to be physical up front. That is a hallmark of Bret Bielema's teams. The more physical team up front on both sides of the ball has a better chance to win this game, and it will manifest itself. And in a game like this, when there are plays to be made, make them. If you got a deep ball like Omar Cooper had against Old Dominion, you gotta catch it. You cannot drop it. You cannot waste opportunities in this game. And then lastly, who reacts better to things that they have not seen on tape yet? Illinois' got some things that Indiana hasn't seen, and vice versa. Who reacts better in those situations, I think, will help determine the outcome of this game. Okay. With that, let's bring in our fellas, Peter and Nathan, with us from behind the glass, and chime in here as get some things that might be on your mind here, fellas, either about Indiana State or looking ahead to Illinois. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that stands out to me, like you said, is Illinois struggled in protecting Luke Altmire, and you talk about how important it is for Indiana to get home and finish those plays. To that end, I think one of the things that we wanted to see more of is Kamara getting to the quarterback, finishing those plays, and recording a higher sack number. I think he's at 1 right now through the 3 non-conference games, 3 easy opponents. You want to see some more production from him. Do you think that this is a game where we can see him start to pop out of the box score and get
Great question. And I think this has to be one of the best games that Mikhail Kamara has ever played in an Indiana uniform. And I say that because this is a college football playoff entrance exam. It is that big of a game this early in the season, knowing what you have coming up down the stretch here for Indiana, road games at Oregon, at Penn State. You give yourself a little bit of flexibility if things don't go your way with those 2 games, if you can beat Illinois, a top 10 team now, in this game. So in order to do that, Mikhail Kamara has to be an absolute monster. He has to be the guy that led the country in pressures a year ago. He has to be that dude in this game. I think it's a great opportunity as well for players like Kellen Wyatt and Stephen Daly to really show up in a big way. We've seen flashes. Ratcliffe has showed flashes inside. Wheeler inside as well. I think those guys really this has to be their finest moment so far this season. I think it will be. I mean, it'll be their biggest test, no question, but they have to be able to rise to the challenge. That's a great question. And this does, in fact, have to be a Mikhail Kamara domination type of game. And I like him on the left, on the tackle 74 is one to kind of follow for me as I'm looking at their left tackle, J.C. Davis. As much as he's lined up there, he's given up a couple of sacks. So that's something to watch. Anything else?
Yeah, I want to go back to the first drive of the game, actually. When Kalen Black fumbled. I was able to recover it, and obviously they dominated the whole game. But just how important is it to set the tone early and not have plays like that stump like the momentum of going on Saturday? You
guys are on the money, man. You guys are on the money, and I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot. I just glossed right over that in my notes. And trying to bring it back exactly where I had it, but the ball was on the ground, and the ball was. It was almost like a frenetic situation down there on that first drive, right? And there, we had a running back get smashed down in there inside the 10-yard line. I feel like on a missed blocking assignment. Black fumbled the ball. Great hustle by Pat Coogan going down there and recovering it. Right. Fernando, I think, was a little bit, as I was watching, a little bit loose with the ball once or twice. This, of course, the takeaway battle is going to be huge, and you just can't have it. You cannot have balls on the ground on offense, and you cannot be putting the ball in peril if you're Fernando Mendoza, because this secondary will take it away. They're experienced. They've been here. This is their second year in the system. Really, the new guys on their front are transfers on the defensive line. So this is a group with great continuity in the back end, and they will take the ball away. And so I think it's a great point that you guys make there. Obviously got to take care of the football and cannot put the ball on the ground. Just a couple things here quickly, Big Ten related. Bryce Underwood obviously bounced back with a big-time performance for Michigan against Central Michigan, dominating win there, obviously after a tough loss against Oklahoma. I was at the Michigan State game. Nick Marsh is the real deal. Their wide receiver, and Indiana's going to see him in Bloomington if he's healthy. He got hurt in this game, did not play the second half. Same goes for their starting running back, also went down late in the game as well. In a game that was, I think closer than most people expected. Youngstown State was in that game for a long time. So again, future opponent for IU. Number 6, Nick Marsh, is one of the best receivers in the conference. If he is healthy, that is going to be a matchup to watch when IU and Michigan State hook up in a couple of weeks. And then otherwise, I think, I don't think anybody expected Wisconsin to go down to Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama. That's a tough one for Wisconsin. We'll see if they can bounce back this week as they open conference play, I believe, against Maryland. So just a couple of conference thoughts overall there. Obviously, we had our first coach fired, which is never good. Following week 3, UCLA, Deshaun Foster have parted ways after they got beaten pretty soundly by a group of 6 team in New Mexico. Really good coaching staff there at New Mexico. Jason Eck came down from one of the FCS powers in Idaho. But I feel for Deshaun Foster. That's a tough one, when it's your alma mater, and he got into that job really late in the process last year. They had such positive momentum at the end of last season. They were playing really good football, and just to see it go so wrong so fast is always tough. But Deshaun Foster's a good coach. He'll find a way and find a place back into this game. But it'll be Tim Skipper stepping in as the interim head coach there, and our guy Tino Sinceri into some turmoil, early on as he stepped away from IU to take over the play caller job there at UCLA. Look, quarterback, right? It's all about the quarterback. Protect the quarterback. Just a fun stat, not fun for those schools, but in terms of pass protection, in terms of most pressures allowed in the country right now this year, the 2 FBS teams that have allowed the most pressures so far this season, Virginia Tech and UCLA. Fellas, what do they have in common?
Both coaches got fired.
Yep. So if you don't think protecting your quarterback is of the utmost importance, let that be a lesson for you, certainly. So we'll see UCLA coming to the Rock this year, right? If I got my schedule correct. Yeah. So we'll see what they look like once they get here. But all right, guys, just a couple of thoughts there on what's going on in the Big Ten Conference, but all eyes on Bloomington, Indiana coming up this week. Can't wait to get there. Can't wait to connect with you guys. And hope to see you at Trax on Friday, 4:00. Little big red carpet CrimsonCast collaboration. Then there's like a happy hour thing going on at Upstairs over across the street right afterwards. So we're going to have a heck of an evening on Friday night and a heck of a day on Saturday. Get out there, pack the rock, defend the rock, and we will see you in Bloomington this week. Thanks for being with us on this episode of the Big Red Carpet.